Welcome back, everyone. Today we are here at the Fatherly Edition with Giorgio Venturi.
Hi.
He is a long-time expert in app user experience. He is based in London, Italian-born, and he has 2 daughters. And I let him introduce a bit more himself and his experience being a father. Thank you, Giorgio, again for being here.
Thank you, Tommaso. It's a huge pleasure to talk about this on your podcast. So first of all, just something quick about myself. I am first and foremost a very curious person. My curiosity has brought me from my hometown and in the gentle hills of Umbria to then Roma to do my university and to discover more about the Eternal City, the capital of Italy. I've been there for about 8 years, where I met my future wife. Then I decided to have an experience abroad. That was 2003. So then I went to the Netherlands, which is absolutely amazing for its quality of life. And I was a researcher in human-computer interaction at Thales for about a couple of years. And then I moved eventually to the UK in 2005. In the summer of 2005, it was extremely hot. I still remember it because I had a bicycle, and it was very tiring to go up and down the hills with the bicycle. It was super hot, and I've been in the UK since then. So now it's about 18 years and counting. So in general, traveling is a huge passion. I was just telling a friend of mine that I haven't been traveling on my own for a while. So for the next year, one of my plans is to, get a rucksack and back on the road, even for just a week, just to experience again how it feels like to be on the road on an adventure. So that's, I think, the first something important about me. Then also I'm very, for me, the other important thing in life is relationships. So I really think that relationships, friends, and so on, they give you a perspective on life that is absolutely priceless. So these are my two main values.
Thank you. Thank you for the big picture about yourself. So at least we have a panorama about your work-life experience. So it's a real European citizen, I say, because you spend time and not just traveling, but working out, living in different areas of Europe. So that is a bit of things. Of course, pandemic doesn't allow much traveling. So we touch base later on this. So, as you say, you have 2 daughters. So how was Giorgio before? Is at least 11 years ago, more or less. And
Yep.
What is Giorgio now? Briefly. So I know it's hard to describe, to say.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I recently did we have a leadership course in the London Stock Exchange where I work. And actually, we did a month ago an exercise around our values. And I realized that for me, freedom is one of my top 5 values. The freedom of trying new things, the freedom of traveling, the freedom of doing what you enjoy doing. Clearly, family does bring that freedom to face reality. So you have to compound that with actually a strong sense of responsibility towards your children. So I think that the main change I would say is that you need to carve the freedom around the time you spend with your family, and that's, I guess, the main change from me. I'm still the same, right? I haven't changed a bit, but the realities changed around me. So you adapt to and you evolve with the reality around you, I think. And parenthood, it's really a watershed moment in your life. Just when you when you have this little baby, just a few hours. I remember Sophie. You realize your life has completely changed, and it's not ever gonna be the same. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful. It's true. I can just agree with you. So yeah, just to find you're still there, but everything changed so fast around you. So you need to really to find a moment to realize that. And if I can ask a second question, can be how you see the change in terms of parenting between your father generation and our generation, your generation. Do you see any major change?
I mean, everybody has a different experience, right? So,
of course, yeah.
Arthur C. Clarke, said many years ago that the future is already here, it's just unevenly distributed. So in that sense, changing context, my family was kind of already quite modern, because I guess my mom had the leading role in the family compared to maybe other families in Italy but still it was a traditional family in a sense, with traditional values, right? My dad has always been very focused on work, very focused on his passion for science. But he spent a huge amount of time with us, especially with me, because, he enjoyed it, especially when I was a kid. So I have a kind of image of my dad that always be ready to play with me if I wanted to play, or if I had an idea. He would build toys made of wood.
Fantastic.
So it's like we've lost contact with the this stuff, I guess, with all this technology. But we will make up games. He would tell me about science or about dinosaurs. That was my biggest passion before. Even at the time, there was no Jurassic Park, so it was all coming out of books and stuff. So yeah, we had a huge amount of books about dinosaurs. Anyway, so my dad has always been very close to me, and I guess going back to your question, how's that changed? I would say my dad always relied on my mom for the big decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So he would often, when we ask something like, "Can we do this? Can we do that?" He would always say, "Okay, let's ask mom. Let's see what she thinks." So I think it was almost like piggybacking on her leadership, if we can use that word, in the relationship. So most of the important decisions have been made by my mom in my life. I guess this has changed. So my Marivana, my wife, my partner, we have a very equal relationship in terms of decisions, in terms of what we want for our kids. So we are equal in responsibilities, but also in accountabilities, right? So what we are ultimately, what do we want for our kids? We're working together. We are partners in deciding what is the best future for our children, and that's the most important thing, that you realize that you move away from archetypical roles of father and mother, and you just see yourself as a person, and what can you do to help your children live a better life. So that's what has changed, I will say. Just moving away from the old, in Italy especially, coming back from a country where the culture, the roles are kind of traditionally quite segregated. There's almost like a script. There's almost like a script for you to follow if you are a dad or if you're a mom. I guess it's also what has changed is that we go out of the script. We write our own script.
Yeah, I assume, and that's happened partially, because we live in this context, in this era, but partially even because we live abroad. That can be the reason. So we don't have the family next door. So we have this sort of freedom, but of course the couple make his own decision, but of course can't help in this sense.
And freedom comes at a cost, right? Because not having the support of your close families, it means that you have to juggle continuously all these things: work, parenting, and you need to make time for those things. You don't have granddaddy or grandmother to help you with during the weekend doing spending time with their children. Even if I would say my in-laws, for example, they have spent quite a big time and quite a long time in the UK. But in general, you are much more responsible for their upbringing. So yeah, 100%.
Right. Thanks. So, and thank you for raising these two very important points. Again, freedom, but you pay for that somehow. And so when we talk about fathers in general, what do you think we struggle with? And what are the main still, how you say, preconception or bias that you, of course, for some reason you don't agree, you want to maybe to kick off? There is a need to break, or as you say, in Italy there are certain sort of script, and but maybe it's not just in Italy.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. It's everybody's a different journey, right? And so it's very difficult to make any generalizations. I come from a very atypical family with an atypical dad, so in general, I've seen people struggling. It's not just about being a dad; it's about being a man. What does it mean to be a man in 2023? And it's different answers in Thailand. It's different answer in the UK. Different answer in Italy, and so on. In general, men traditionally has always struggled with communication and expressing their emotions. So these are the two things that traditionally, if you want to take a broad view on manhood, I think men, like, they carry on, they do their job, they don't complain, and I think that has to change, because it's very important to express your emotion. I mean, again, it's very difficult to do generalizations, but it's very important for your children, so they have a role model of a father that is able to express their love or their whatever feelings you want to express, and not being shut down in terms of emotions. This is a preconception, I think, with manhood that is changing, luckily, but not, going back to my initial quote, is not evenly distributed. So you have different levels of evolution. And you never know, right? History might actually go back. We might go back to a traditional family in 100 years. I don't know. But at the moment, we are still in this phase of evolution towards, I think, a more expressive parenthood. Very, very important. I remember I was struggling as well, because my dad was not the most open person. If you think about how my dad was, despite spending time with us, he could not express his emotions openly. So that's something I have personally worked on, and it's very important. Like, they say relationships is work. I think you need to keep working on your relationship with your children. Never be happy with the status quo, but trying to push and see where you can get to. Clearly, children have different stages in their evolution. So the things that you do when they are babies, you need to change your way of doing things when they reach the teenager stage, so that you have different challenges, different things to look to.
Yes, and as you say, communication is the key. Of course, you need to adapt even how you communicate to your children. When they are baby, then they change. You can't talk always the same way, so that you approach different topics and different, same as many. You can't have always the same face. I mean, the same mask. As you say, you need to layer off those masks to be a person, not just the bread keeper.
Yes.
Thanks for bringing up those points. So that's you point out even before your job. So how does your job allow to spend quality time with your family? So it's not easy for anyone, but maybe there are some jobs that bring you more flexibility.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a privileged knowledge worker, so that means that I work primarily with my brain and with my communication skills. So my physical presence is not necessary all the time at work. So that has some beautiful implications. That means I can spend more time with my family. Need to spend less time commuting in London back and forth on public transport, which can take an hour, or for some people I know even 2 hours and a half each way. Depends where you live. Again, going back to the traditional role, traditionally it was accepted that the dad would spend a huge amount of time out of the house, and nobody was complaining. And now all of a sudden we are thrown into a huge social experiment where we actually have more time to spend with our children. We can do school drop-offs, school collections, we can take them to swimming, to piano lessons, whatever you have decided is best for your children. And that's a huge change, I think, because I can't remember who said that to me, but children spell love, T-I-M-E. So the time that you spend with your children is the way you express your love towards them. And I think that's a powerful thought. No matter, spending actual time, even taking them to these activities or showing that you care. I think that's a huge help especially for family like ours, where we are living abroad and we don't have that network around us to support in our parenthood, in rearing children. Have you heard the expression that it takes a village to raise a child, right? So it's not just you, especially you realize when you go to school how important the community you live in is. So one of the most important decisions that you can take is, where are you going to raise your children? So in which context? Who's going to be their friends, their school, their teacher? These are all things that you cannot completely control, right? But you can influence. You have some visibility on.
Yeah.
Did I go off track with the question?
No. That's all those things are very important. Actually, what you say, even the fact that the time is the most valuable things to our kids. I was discussing with another dad a few days ago. We say we can bring them anywhere to do whatever experience, but the important things is how much time we are capable to stay with them, to look at them in their face. So then if you give them one gift or another, that they probably they will forget about. But the time and what you do with this time, that will remain. I think in this, the next question will be how you coping with the fatherhood post-pandemic. And you partially answer already, because I think through the pandemic push up this remote working and was struggling for many, but at least we have the opportunity to spend much more time with our family. That's
right.
Previous generation never had such opportunity.
That's right. I mean, what I always tell to my team is that, ask yourself when you go to the office, how can you take value? What is the best value you can take out of being in presence with people? If you go to the office and you spend all of your time in conference calls with other people across the globe, you may not have made a great choice. But if you spend time in maybe having a serendipitous conversation with your colleagues, so maybe meeting them at the coffee machine, talking about things that you wouldn't have talked otherwise, so giving yourself a chance to connect at a deeper level with your team, then you have actually done something worthwhile. So basically, long story short, I think that there are huge benefits working remotely. Pandemic, think about it. 4 years ago, if we had this conversation 4 years ago, and I told you, hey, Tommaso, I think in 2 years' time, we're all going to be working from home, and nobody's going to be at the office having meetings, you would have thought that was bonkers. So the pandemic has put us in a situation where really we were all part of a huge social experiment that in a way is still going on. I don't think we're still back to where things used to be. So I think I'm really privileged to be part of actually this change. I think it does make things better. What do you think?
I think so. I had the opportunity to spend much more time than ever before with my daughter as well. So before I was traveling much more, and I saw her just a few times actually. But
how old is she now?
Now she's 4. So you see,
she was very young when pandemic hit.
And suddenly I was stuck, home with all together. So at the beginning traveling was complicated, of course. But then we bring something positive. So we had the opportunity to create books together. So it's activity even for other kids using the web to play and connect with other kids around the globe. So we just try to switch the negative news, from something that positive can reach the moment. That's what happened.
Yeah. Is it true that in Chinese that the word for challenge and opportunity is the same word? So when you have a challenge like that, it actually will present you some kind of interesting ways of doing things differently. So
yes. It's always about.
I have coped with a very small garden. I'm privileged to have a very small garden, and I've built a little with DIY, a little climbing wall.
Fantastic.
In my garden, and my little Emma would climb up the fence and start speaking with her neighbors, which is not what I intended to do. It was just not meant to. But kids find ways around things that you don't even think about it. So it's one of those things that it was not used in the way it was meant to be. But it was fun, and I think pandemic really pushed the best, or in terms of what you can do creatively, especially for a designer. So what does it mean to be a designer? Designer fundamentally for me is being open to the new, it's being curious. It is about take what you get and creatively come up with a solution that solves the problem. That's for me what, in a nutshell, what design is all about.
I think it's the best definition. So just be capable to transform what you have and the moment you have, and play with that. So just last question then. So what is the best part? What you learned so far by spending time with your girls during the lockdown? There is something that still with you that you say, we learned this during that time. If you can point out one thing.
I think it's really just to potentially, we touched that before, is how important time is, the time you spend. Even this, the time I would spend commuting before, take 2 hours each way, 4 days a week, because I was already working 1 day from home. So it's 8 hours a week. What can you do with 8 hours a week? You can do a lot if you use them well. So the time you spend with your children is very important. Another thing I would say is how important it is to control the time they spend with digital devices. And this is something that all parents at some point struggle with, because we have built these amazing devices that are interactive, they're touch friendly, they stimulate their natural curiosity, and also these devices they have the ability, unfortunately, to become almost like compulsory, like almost like a habit, and almost like they make you feel sick if you don't use them, because of the dopamine that our brain releases when you use them. It's something that as adults we can hardly cope with, but as children it's devastating.
Exactly. So
I mean, they are naturally much more instinctive, so they will naturally be inclined to use these devices as much as possible. So unfortunately, that takes away time to do more creative stuff, right? As much as this stuff can be creative, I think you need time to take your scissors, take your paper, take your glue, your pencils,
right,
your pens, and have time to explore other things, doing some arts and crafts, some drawing, playing some music. And digital devices will naturally eat into the time kids spend the web with that. My daughter is Emma is like always shouting that I want to use this because I'm bored. Well, boredom sometimes is important.
It's a good thing sometimes.
It is a good thing because it pushes your creative juice to actually try something different and make up a new game and find time to express yourself with imaginary play or this kind of games that kids just make up naturally. Because if you use this digital device, there's always a script. Somebody has wrote for you that you need to have fun in this way. But I think kids need to have time to develop their own script, to find out time to create their own games, make up stories with their sister, with their friends, and it's so important. I don't know about you, Tommaso, but I would spend hours when I was a kid making up stories.
Same
with my friends. Yeah,
same. I still remember the story I was telling to my friends. So, especially during the summertime.
Yes.
But nowadays, I assume it's different. You say kids, different age are attracted by those devices that are natural for them. Same time, maybe it's our job. They are in our parenthood, at least, who are us as the skill to think about what else we can do just to stop showing just the screen to them, just find an alternative way. So we are aware that there is a limbo or dangers if you just look at the screen. What we can cope, what we can do about that. So there are many things to talk about. Maybe it can be done, and I think we're still just at the beginning of this way.
Yeah, absolutely, Tommaso. You already spoke to a number of that. So do you have any tips for me on how to foster this ability in children to resist the attraction to the digital device?
I think it's something that everybody faces. Somebody say they not allow their kids to play with those devices, but then at the end of the day, kids find a way to have not yours, the friend device. Yeah. So there is no easy solution. So, and pandemic was of course pushing because we are all in the same space. Most of the time we don't even go outside, that's a factor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But now we should just use it in a different way. Some people use it just with specific time zone, or at least say, okay, use 1 hour, but then again, still always better to be boring. Teach them what meaning to be bored, and say device doesn't help you to escape your boringness. So as you say, you play with somebody else's script, that's it. Of course, we need to find to communicate this in the right way, not to be just the old school dad, the way just is what I say.
Yeah,
I think just we keep listen other and see what each of us has to suggest, how we cope with technology, because something that we all face. there is no single solution at the moment.
100%.
Yeah.
There's no single solution. Also, kids are all different.
Exactly.
So I only have I have two of them. But I imagine if I had 3, 4, and they will all still be very different. So every time you would have to change your way of doing things because they have different needs, different personalities. So that there's no such a thing as a silver bullet.
Exactly.
To parenthood, you
Never.
find your way. Yeah.
Yes, there is never a shortcut. So thank you, Giorgio, for being with us today. It was a great pleasure. A lot of things you raise up, a lot of topics we can discuss later on. Thank you again for being with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Tommaso. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Giorgio.
Hi, thanks for listening the Fatherly Edition. If you like what you've been hearing, please follow Tommaso Maggio on LinkedIn or subscribe to the Fatherly Edition podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you gain your podcasts.